Go, 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 go.
3, 2, 1, 4 tires.
Still there, inside.
What a jump! What a jump!
The track is wet. It's good.
Still there, clear.
3, 2, 1. Green flag, green flag.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Foreign Field Podcast. It is December 3rd, as we're recording this right now, 2025. We're wrapping up the 2025 year here in general, Foreign Field Podcast. A great first full year coming to an end, but still got some episodes in the works and some more social media presence being applied. I'm your host, Dom Capilupo, joined by Steve Ray, Wesley Riddle, and Sam Dooley. The crew is all back together for the first time since Phoenix, and I will say I am very nervous coming into this episode because of the rumor I found out about maybe an hour ago. On Instagram, the page Green Flag Pit Stop. Last year, they had the rumor that Chris Gabehart was leaving the pit box of Denny Hamlin and getting promoted to competition director. And then Chris Gale was going to go on the top of the 11 box. And that was a day before it was officially announced. Now, this same page puts out that word on the street is Chris Gabehart has parted ways with JGR for an unknown reason. So I'm kind of nervous as a Denny Hamlin and JGR fan. Steve, do you think Green Flag Pit Stop's going to be 2 for 2 here, or are they maybe goofing here?
Well, I thought they were goofing last year. I thought there was no way that Chris Gabehart was going to come off the box for Denny Hamlin, and especially put Chris Gale, that bum. I thought there's no way that they were going to put him on the box, and that turned out to be true. So, with that being said, I don't know if they're just doing this for clickbait. However, they were correct in their post last year, so that makes me nervous too. Then you start to wonder, well, where would Chris Gabehart go to? And it'd be very interesting once this whole trial thing is resolved. If 2311 comes out and wins this thing, what if there's a reunion between Chris Gabehart, on the side of a team that Denny Hamlin owns, and Chris Gabehart ends up at 2311? That would be something to keep an eye on as a potential. But first, we have to figure out if this rumor is even true. Because if you haven't been listening to the Teardown episodes these last couple of days, highly encourage you to watch it. But they got into kind of the backstory of how 2311 even came to be a team. And it started with a clickbait fake news story that started. And then that took off, and had that never been posted, we may have never gotten 2311 Racing, wouldn't have been in this lawsuit type of deal. Is kind of the notes that Jeff and Jordan were taken away from that. So with these types of stories, you never know what's true or not true, but even if it's fake, it could still turn out to be true. It's very confusing, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, if it is true and Gabehart does end up leaving JGR, where do you think that he would end up?
I mean, you'd like to think that it would be in 2311, unless Chris Gabehart's just done, just like over it, like done with the sport. But I can't imagine it being like a move to Hendrick Motorsports or anything like that, just because realistically, at his position, he would have reached basically the highest position you can get in terms of the competition side, if I'm not mistaken. So why you would make a lateral move after just 1 year, where you just had Joe Gibbs Racing's most successful season since 2019, unless there's something Maybe there's some. I'm just gonna lay out a conspiracy theory here. Maybe Ty Gibbs just doesn't like Chris Gabehart and didn't like when he jumped on the box for him, and Ty Gibbs is weaseling another amazing person in this sport out of Joe Gibbs Racing.
I personally think that he's got the itch again, like he wants to be on the box again, and I don't think that JGR wanted to make any changes because of how good their postseason was. Um, and that could lead to, hey, okay, so let's go to, like you said, a 2311, which I hope is the case as a 2311 fan myself. That's a great guy to have in the organization, but I feel like it. You wouldn't abruptly leave when things are that good if you wanted to leave and be the competition director somewhere else. Like I feel like he's going because he's got the itch to be back on the box and he wants to be making the calls and he wants that he misses that stress in like a weird way, you know? And probably JGR is like, hey, so we kind of like what we have right now with our crew chiefs. And so he's kind of looking elsewhere to try and find that. But that, like everything that we say, pretty much is speculation because we don't even know if this is an actual report yet. Um, like Dom said, this is a rumor that we've seen from a source that was correct last time. Um, so it's just it's pure speculation at this point.
So are we talking Riley Herbst playoff run next year
Oh,
with Chris
Jesus
Gabehart
Christ, no.
on the box?
You could give Riley Herbst 100 more horsepower than everyone in the field, and he would not win a single goddamn race. That guy is bad. Nice guy, kind fella, works hard. It's just not clicking for him, man. It's just not. It's just not there. There's something that's not there.
Before we start talking about wins, let's talk about getting a top 10 first before we jump all the way to going for a win.
Hey, I didn't say he had to win. I just said playoff run. That's all I'm saying. If there are
But yeah,
playoffs,
if there are playoffs,
which I
if
mean,
there's
we're not going to find anything about this playoff format for probably not until January, if I had to guess at this point.
if it was a 36 race full season championship, Herbst would be body bagged in points after the Daytona 500. There wouldn't be a point in him
I
showing up for the rest of the 35 races.
I mean, you think about it. Riley Herbst has a legit chance to win the Daytona 500. He was second car on the inside coming to the white flag this past season, and then he got wrecked. So I'm just saying, man, especially if he gets Chris Gabehart, I don't know. That'd be the
We got to
wildest.
unpack.
That would be
We
the
got.
wildest thing to ever happen. Chris Gabehart steps down from the competition director at Joe Gibbs Racing to be the crew chief for Riley Herbst.
We gotta unpack this affinity that you have for Riley Herbst, man. Like I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it happened. But I've never seen someone so passionate about a paid driver in the Cup Series than you about Riley Herbst. Like I don't understand it.
Well, it definitely got validated at Pocono this past season when I was at the track at the tailgate, and here comes a guy with a this guy with a Riley Herbst shirt on comes walking by. I said, "Let's go, Riley." He says, "I know we're gonna finish. I know he's gonna finish 30th today, but it's for the love of the game." So, listen, Riley Herbst can be good. We've seen it in the Xfinity series. I mean, when he wins, he lays belt to ass when he wins.
Yeah, but I think we can all look at that Las Vegas race and realize that there was a little something something going on under that. There is
That
no
was
way in a
suspect.
playoff
That was
race
incredibly
you
suspect.
go out and win by 17 seconds in 2024 or whatever year it was.
Yeah.
23.
It's his home
Is that
track.
23?
Extra motivation.
Yeah, that was hate to say cheated up. There's a little something fishy under that engine. The
And
little
then,
little engine that
and
couldn't
then,
somehow
and
all of a
then,
sudden is the little engine that can.
and then he wins at the Brickyard.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely an impressive win. But still, like, I mean, it's taken him what, 7 years to validate himself with the most resources in the Xfinity Series,
And that
more
was
than
with a
probably
that
any
was a
driver ever.
that was with a dying Stuart Haas team. And then he wins, And then he kicks Justin Allgaier's ass while Justin Allgaier's trying to win a championship at Phoenix.
Shoot.
I mean, if Riley Herbst doesn't get screwed, he would have been the Xfinity champion in 2024.
Like I said, nice guy. Works hard. Uh, I'm no, stop, just stop. Like,
Sorry, I
I
there.
can't
I,
believe.
I think if you took Herbst and Cody Ware out, nothing against Cody, but they there's 50 drivers better right now to put in the Cup Series.
I think Riley Herbst is better than Cole Custer.
Shoot, I don't know about that.
it,
I still don't even know about that.
I mean,
Maybe
at least
maybe in Cup, but
I think Riley Herbst in Cup is better than Cole Custer because Cole Custer is
Cole Custer has a
legitimate.
win. He has a win.
Yeah, he only
yeah,
needed Ryan Blaney to.
Yeah, I don't care. He has a win. He won in the Cup
shoot.
Series. Riley Herbst averaged like 30th in the Cup Series. Once
In
again,
one
nice
year.
guy. By all accounts, really nice guy. He puts in the work. Just the results weren't there. Wish the best for him. But
This
right
was
now he's not.
23-11's worst season win wise.
I, I don't care.
I mean
I don't
Tyler Reddick
care.
didn't win.
Look at the statistics. Obviously, Riley Herbst is not as good as his two teammates, at least. Was he even the top finishing 2311 car a single time this entire year?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. So
He might be the only driver since Cody Ware at least beat his teammates. Oh wait,
like everybody at every team has finished above their teammates at least once. That's how bad Riley has been. Once again, by all accounts of everyone I've ever met that have met him, nice guy, kind guy, works hard, just not clicking for him. And maybe he can turn it around. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's Gabehart that shows up out of nowhere and becomes Superman and fixes him. But let's slow your roll on Riley Herbst.
And I
We
mean
have
you
talked
gotta
about him for
you
too long. Stop.
you gotta no but
Stop.
one last thing.
This is an off season. We are talking about court documents. We are not talking about Riley Herbst.
One thing I can document is that there are hats sold on at the 2311 Toyota merch hauler that have their 2311 racing hats.
should I go get mine?
Where yeah, I mean if you could get it
We'll
just
be
to
right
prove
back.
this for the people on YouTube, you're gonna see this hat and what I'm saying. But you'll see it. On the hat, it only has two drivers' numbers on the hat. And it's not the 35. You got the 23 and the 45 on the hat, but no 35.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing? So I'm thinking that that 35 car is severely underfunded compared to the other
There's
cars.
no way. No, Monster writes
Look
a
at that.
blank check.
There you go, right there. Look at that for the people watching on YouTube.
It's a beautiful hat. I don't
Yeah.
think they could put it on there just because it wouldn't.
It would
I don't
be
know. Maybe the
symmetrical.
mesh. But yeah, I just I'm not a fan of pay for spot drivers, and he might be the only driver in NASCAR history to have 100% of the funding not even come from his own pocket.
See, the thing is, he would have been on that hat if he gave a couple more million for the monster money to be on the hat. That was the problem. Monster's like, we'll pay for your entire cup career, right? But we're not gonna pay for that damn hat. I will not be on that damn hat.
I can't believe that we have an entire court case started between NASCAR and 2311 in front row, and we just spent about 10 minutes talking about Chris Gabehart maybe going to crew chief Riley Herbst next season.
You do this to me, Dom. You do this to me. You do this to me. Every time you open your mouth about Riley Herbst, it's there's something in my brain. I don't like it. I don't like it. Nice guy. Nice guy. By all accounts, nice guy puts in the work. Right? sucks. Just sucks. I'm gonna say it. He just
What?
sucks.
What? All right. One last thing before we get into this court case. Hypothetically, would you say I'm crazier if I predicted Christopher Bell to win 12 races next year, or Riley Herbst to win one?
Riley Herbst to win one.
Riley
I
Herbst
would
to win
take the
one.
Chris. I would take the Bell 12 wins.
Yes, I agree.
Even though I'm not personally a Herbst fan, I think I would take Bell just because that's in this day and age unrealistic versus you get 4 races where anybody can win. I mean, Cody Ware led 25 laps at Daytona and he looked like he had a shot. So if he can do it,
But
I'm not saying
Cody
Herbst
Ware
is
has
better, but
like a ounce
Oh
of talent
no,
somewhere.
no, stop.
He's better than
Stop.
Riley
No,
Herbst. He is
no,
better than
no
Riley Herbst.
way.
I don't care. I don't
No,
care. He's
there
better
ain't
than Riley
no
Herbst. He
way.
is the better pay driver. It doesn't matter.
I
There's a whole court case going on right now, and it is really interesting. And I think we should get into that, Dominic.
No, this is about to be a court case because there's no way Cody Ware is better than Riley Herbst.
Let's talk about the court case, Dom.
Well, Riley Herbst's team owners are in a fight here with NASCAR. Day one was on Monday, December 1st, and that day consisted of them selecting the jury, which ended up being 9 people, six men and 3 female. And it also saw Denny Hamlin start his testimony, which lasted for about an hour that day, and then his carried over into Tuesday, December 2nd for an additional 3.5 hours, which meant Denny Hamlin was up at the stand for about 4.5 hours, which is kind of bizarre just to kick things off. The judge had this labeled as a 2 week trial, and at the rate they're going, there's no way it's going to be only 2 weeks. Now, to start with the jury, if you haven't listened to the teardown, like Steve said, some interesting things came out of the jury selection. We had somebody, they called him Sod Guy, who his reason for not being able to stay for the trial and be on the jury was, I have a huge shipment of sod coming in and I can't do it. I got to be there. I only have like 2 days in like the span to be there and get it, to receive it. And then proceeded on his way out, or proceeded to then double down to get out of this jury, being like, my opinion is NASCAR killed NASCAR 20 years ago. So then the judge had to let him go. And then he gave like the good old nod to Michael Jordan on his way out. We had one of the jurors who eventually got selected fill out what their favorite hobby was, and they said heavy drinking.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. I agree with that guy. I like that guy. That's my friend, man.
And so the Judge Bell, had to basically say, will this impact your decision making or ability to focus throughout the trial? And he said, yeah, I was just being sarcastic.
Yeah,
So
in
that's
big
where we're
air
at.
quotes, sarcastic,
We'll see
as he
this
takes
guy
a swig from a
tailgate.
flask.
Well, DBC, they said they were going to be tailgating the lawsuit. So is this guy joining them before he has to go in? Taking shots of
Yeah,
Fireball?
they're doing the fireball shots in the parking lot.
So that's basically the general laydown of the first day. Now, if I have one thing I want to ask is, why do they prevent cameras, and like, why can't this be live streamed for everyone to watch? It's not like there's anything confidential or being hidden. Like, every reporter is going to go at every break to kind of just give you the spark notes on what has been said and what's been done in that courtroom. So why can't you just have a camera going? You'd probably make a lot of money with everyone that's going to tune in. Let's get Dirty Mo Media in there. Let's get some cameras in there. Fire it up. We were talking before the show. Steve said, let's get a Manning cast on this with we could get Mamba Smith and Travis from Actions Detrimental, and then those two probably choke each other out with because Mamba hates Denny and Travis is all about Denny. So I mean, this is like entertainment we are being deprived of because of the federal court system.
Yeah, you don't know how much money I would pay to see the Travis versus Mamba simulcast. That would be so entertaining.
I'd pay
I
the
would,
pay-per-view. That'd be like the first pay-per-view I've ever actually bought. I would pay that. I would
yeah,
100% pay that to watch this
I
trial.
would I would fly us all into like we'll go on a vacation and watch this. And we'll do it. We'll do our own third simulcast, Foreign Field Podcast live watch party doing this. We'll get the Budweisers rolling and watch that. See what being deprived of? I mean, unbelievable. But basically, when they got the jury selected and everything kind of started, the first day, Denny Hamlin was up there for about an hour, kind of talked about his upbringing into the sport, answered questions to let the jury know because basically the jury didn't really know who Denny Hamlin was, where he came from and how he got to where he was. And he got emotional, very emotional, talking about his dad and how he's, obviously not in good health. And you look at, they asked him, when did you first drive a car? It was like 15, he said. And then someone asked him how his season went, and he's like, "Can I plead? Can I plead the fifth?" And they said, "Well, you're not, we're not being charged for how your season went." And he basically said, "Well, was winning the championship until Caution came out with three to go." And that's all you got to know about that. So first day, kind of interesting. And the reason they had to put Denny Hamlin first as a witness was so he could be in the courtroom after that, because NASCAR filed an appeal with Judge Bell basically saying they can only have one representative like at the head of the table, which obviously they're picking Michael Jordan. It's Michael Jordan, it's North Carolina. You're going to have him representing 2311 in front row, and it's Jim France representing NASCAR. But the way you can get Denny Hamlin in the courtroom and to stay in the courtroom just in general is by having him do his testimony, which keeps him in the room after he does that. And now it's a matter, I think Curtis Polk will have to do that as well to have his body in the courtroom. Which I mean, it's not like these guys aren't going to get the whole laydown, obviously, after the fact, but just having like Denny Hamlin's presence in there is probably going to help a lot for the teams.
yeah, certainly, and definitely a good move on their part because since Denny wasn't selected as the corporate representative, well, let's have him as our first witness, so then he can be in the courtroom the entire trial. So it's something that I mean, didn't even know was a thing. So that's why these lawyers are getting paid gazillions of dollars because of little things like that will certainly make a difference.
Well, you know who wins? Who the only winners in this trial are the lawyers, I mean, because they're the ones that don't want this to get settled. They want to, win this trial so bad because I mean that's just more money. Which, if you ask me right now, who's got the upper hand? It looks like the teams do, with everything that kind of keeps coming out that makes NASCAR look really bad.
I think it's been consistently the teams getting wins for like a while now. Like even pre-trial, whenever they had all those texts come out like a week ago or whatever, a couple weeks ago, whenever all those texts really got released, like calling Richard Childress a idiot or something along those lines, and that he doesn't see the big picture, and all of this stuff. Like it's obvious, and in my personal opinion, obviously, I am not a lawyer. I am not someone on the jury that has to decipher this, but in my humble personal opinion, I mean, NASCAR has been the bully, and they're being shown as the bully right now in court in a legal setting. They are being shown by the evidence that they have been doing all of these things that 2311 has been saying that they've been doing all throughout all of these injunctions and all through all of this stuff that they've all these legal processes. Um, they've shown that yeah, NASCAR's exactly what we said they were. Now that we've got the evidence and we're airing that out, we're doing exactly what NASCAR didn't want us to do. We're airing out all of this bad stuff that's going on. Um, I mean, they're exposing NASCAR kind of for what they are, which has been bullies in this whole situation. Um, so it's been really interesting to follow along with this. Just looking at it as a non-professional. I don't claim to be a lawyer or anything, but just kind of looking at the evidence, it definitely looks like it is in the team's favor.
Yeah, once you, I mean, I'm not too knowledgeable in, court talk and law talk and all that. So some of the things are a little murky, but we have great journalists out for, covering NASCAR that are there that are being able to simplify it for us to kind of put it in terms that all the fans can understand what's going on. But the money, I think they said the France family is making like $141 million a year, which is just the France family. That's not all the other NASCAR executives. It's not everyone in NASCAR itself. Meanwhile, you have Bob Jenkins losing over $100 million over the past 10 years being in the sport because of NASCAR really kind of just being shown how greedy they are. They're charging hundreds of thousands of dollars for the at track internet, which is bizarre. And so they could charge all that, but as a fan, there's no service or internet there that most tracks it sucks. So, and we've heard teams complain about like the service and internet sucking for them and things crashing and all this stuff. So it's just there's not much NASCAR is saying against the teams that's looking really bad on the team side as opposed to what evidence the teams have brought that is making NASCAR look really bad. And in my opinion, the teams are at the point now where there's no settlement. I think the teams have to just go for the throat now. It's all or nothing now. I think if anyone wants to settle, it's NASCAR. And I just don't think the teams will let it happen unless they really cut them a really good deal.
It does seem like, at least from what I've been able to follow, that um, the NASCAR's biggest argument is that all the teams agreed to sign the charter, but that's like you said, that's kind of the base of their argument versus the teams have right to be able to dig into NASCAR's past and show a lot of dirty laundry, not even just present, but from multiple years ago. So I feel like that's something that obviously gets weighed pretty heavy in the courtroom. And the I feel like the longevity of NASCAR, it's dated back, you know, with a lot of different manipulation and inner workings of strange, just strange behind the scene manipulation, whether it's on track, off track, dating back to the France family. Now, obviously, they had a huge stake in NASCAR. They, NASCAR's here because of them. But we'll have to see kind of where all the dollar figures line up to when they break those expenses down a little bit more and how they're divided out for, trying to whether individuals making profit versus team and how much where teams are losing that money from. Is it just charter based? I feel like there's a lot of still loose questions around all the finances that are behind it, because that'll tell a pretty big picture. And especially once people get up on the stand trying to explain their case and answer, certain reasons as to why they make that much. I feel like we're going to learn a lot more. I'm not the most versed with the trial stuff either. I haven't been able to follow the case that much this week, since it did start recently, but I've been a little bit preoccupied. But I do feel like the teams have valid case to really throw in a lot of, you could say, detriment on NASCAR's part. And it'll be interesting to see what a lot of the uh, you know, I don't know who all will take the stand, but what a lot of the capitalist teams, like, you look at Rick Hendrick, you look at Roger Penske, you look at Gene Haas, when if they take this, I don't know if Gene's taking the stand, but maybe Rick and Roger, I feel like they're in attendance. But depending on who takes it, just kind of what their take is and why they sign charter agreements and what benefit there could be for them, whether they're going to talk about the benefits to signing that charter or whether they're going to talk more negatively. When you get into the weeds of the people that aren't really involved with the trial, I feel like that might open up a better picture for us to understand whether the teams are telling more of the truth or whether NASCAR is. So it'll be interesting. We'll see how it unfolds over the next few days.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, like honestly, from the get-go in this trial, has been looking at it like NASCAR has the most to lose. Honestly, 2311, they, you lose the money from your charter, and that is a detriment, but these guys had the money to invest it. So, you lose that money. Obviously, that hurts whoever it is that loses that charter, but they can just pull out right now. By going through with this trial, though, they are going to air out so much that NASCAR does not want to see out in the public. I mean, I can't imagine. Like, I don't understand why NASCAR. I don't know if it's their pride. I don't know what it is. NASCAR, if they were smart about keeping their books closed and making sure that no one knew what was going on the inner workings, they should have settled and they should have given them a really good deal, like one they could not turn down. But now they've let it go to trial because they've got arrogance and thinking that their case is going to work. And now everything that we've seen since this trial has started, and even dating back to the pre-trial, is that the teams were right, you were wrong, and now you have to show us everything that you have because we are in court and legally you have to show us all that stuff. So it's like the teams, while you've got, your investment or whatever, obviously 2311 for like Michael Jordan, his investment is nothing for him. I don't want to say nothing, obviously it's a big number, but for him, like that's something that he's willing to eat if he can win this trial. Um, but even if you lose it, even if somehow 2311 loses this and everything goes the exact opposite direction, NASCAR is in a bad spot now with the rest of the teams because now those books are open, and once those books are open, you can't close them back. You can't hide what you're doing again. So NASCAR's had the most to lose this entire time, and that's why I still don't understand why they did not give the biggest settlement that's ever happened ever for anything, because I know how bad they wanted to keep those books closed, and I don't understand why they would voluntarily open them knowing that this is what the outcome would be.
And I feel like, too, just to kind of bounce off what you said, like, yeah, I just wonder how NASCAR as a monopoly is going to look in a courtroom versus two individual teams. How that's going to be weighed out. Um, I know you said that 2311 doesn't have much to lose, but Bob and Brad Jenkins for Front Row, they have everything to lose. I mean, they put their entire life savings into building Front Row Motorsports into what it is today, and starting with an underfunded team and trying to establish himself as a legacy in the Cup Series. And for them to have lost, what did you say, Dom? Maybe about $100 million
Yeah,
overall.
so front row, they said they have lost 60 million in the last 10 years and 100 million overall since joining the sport.
And that's a team that's just been trying to make it. Now, granted, they get great sponsorship, but Bob and Brad are the foundation of that team, and they've done so much for representing what NASCAR has been about, and that's, becoming an established driver, starting from nothing and becoming something. And I feel like that's something that could get lost a little bit in the court trial, but obviously, um, you know, is that something that's even weighed weighed equally with a monopoly? Is it all fair when it comes to that, or does the monopoly have
Well,
a little bit of an upper hand?
that's something if I was a lawyer, once again, not I do not claim to be a lawyer, I not claim to know anything about the law, but that feels like something that you could pull on because the emotional side of a case is just as important with the jury as the actual factual part is. So that feels like something that you could take advantage of. Like everything. Like obviously, I know they're not they're not losing $100 million so that they can win a court case. But that's something that you can point to as evidence is like, hey, these guys, their lives are on the line and they're willing to go up against this. Like this is like they're like a true they're a true American like dream story. Like, hey, you want to own a NASCAR team? Well, you go own that NASCAR team and you try your hardest, you work your hardest to like get to where you are. And I mean that's something that you could use if you're one of the lawyers. I know you said that's something that could be lost, but I think it's like, in my mind, it would be the opposite. It would be something that you could kind of appeal to these people because they're just normal people that are in the jury. Like they're looking at this as like, imagine if I put all my life savings into something, probably can't buy a NASCAR team, but hey, I invest all of my life savings, and then someone tells me that you have to sign this and it's going to make you lose a whole bunch of your money. And um, I don't know. It feels like to me everything really should be lining up for these teams. And I don't see why NASCAR is going along with this. It makes them look bad, even beyond the not wanting to open their books part, which they haven't wanted to do for years. If you just look at just the public perception of NASCAR right now, it's not the greatest, because obviously all of the shady shit that's being uncovered and all of the things that executives are saying, and more things are going to be uncovered. We're only in the early stages of this. So it's stupid that NASCAR is even in this situation. Because if I was someone high up at NASCAR, I'd say we need to keep everything on wraps. But it is impressive, and it's really brave for the Jenkins to be doing what they're doing. Because you were right. I didn't even take into consideration that they're putting everything they have on the line right now to win this. And that is a huge, huge topic.
And that's kind of why I said for them, if and it's only if they lose the trial, it's such a loss for them because of everything they have invested. I mean, for them, yeah, that's again, that's like what NASCAR was built off. Like small teams trying to make themselves a name in the highest form of motorsports in NASCAR. And I know that's not what it is now. But for, it's a team like Front Row that I feel like carries and attempts to carry the lifelong legacy of what NASCAR was to now. And there's not a lot of that left, kind of like the Wood Brothers, right? There's not a lot of teams that have that focus. Like that's why they're doing it. um, you look at a guy like Derek Cope, right? They announced today Derek Cope and Stan Barrett, they're going to have a partnership in the Xfinity Series. That's great. They would neither one of them would ever step back into the Cup Series with the charter system because they just can't afford it, and they know how much money they would lose. That's why I admire a guy like Carl Long, right? Carl, his life has been NASCAR and trying to make it, and he still tries to make it, but he's probably losing, seven, eight figures like a month. Like it could be a month whenever he enters a car, just even though he doesn't enter every race. And that could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know the numbers, but you know, you look at Derek, you look at Stanton, you look at guys like that, you look at Ryan Sieg, who's been a staple in the Xfinity Series. Could you imagine if the Xfinity Series had charters? I mean, these small teams couldn't have made it more than a year. Like, there's just no way longevity wise it could work for them. Seeing the downside of how the finances have been broken up in the Cup Series and how much the teams have lost. It doesn't put a big dent in guys like the Roger Penske, guys like the Rick Hendrick, maybe even Richard Childress, but they're they're still taking a hit. Every team is taking a hit, and that's I admire a lot of what these small teams are doing, and it's Not to say that 2311 has a fighting chance, but they bring a lot more than a guy like Bob or Brad, carrying pretty much their entire life on front row. But I just think overall the teams do have a lot more of the emotional value to fight for in this case, while NASCAR is more having to throw defense, while the teams can throw a full offense and have a little bit more success.
Yeah, looking at it, Hamlin said that 11 of the 19 teams that have been chartered have been basically forced to exit the sport. So you're having more teams than not leave the Cup Series because of the charter system. And I mean, listen, big example. There's a reason Junior Motorsports doesn't go to the Cup Series, and that's just because it's just not feasible at all. Look
Gene
at
Gene Haas even downsizing.
yeah, look at Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon said Hendrick Motorsports hasn't made a profit from NASCAR in years. That's an issue if the most successful team in the Cup Series doesn't make a profit. I mean, huge issue in there. So how is a small team going to make any money if the top team can't can't do it?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully for Hendrick Motorsports, they have other avenues. They have the automotive group, and they have all these other Hendrick avenues that they can, use some of that to help fund Hendrick Motorsports. So they're not going out of, like, Hendrick Motorsports isn't going to go out of business because they're bankrupt. Like Rick Hendrick will just print more money.
Mm.
But yeah, but for a smaller team, you look at these guys like a Bob Jenkins and stuff like that. Like they don't have the Rick Hendrick money to fall back on, and these guys, depend on this income. So I think the general consensus of what I was researching is a lot of these teams want permanent charters, ways for them to make sure that their investment into the sport and with how expensive it is to run in the Cup Series is going to give them a good return on investment. Otherwise, they look at it from a business standpoint. Like if we go belly up, or NASCAR decides that all of a sudden they don't want to share all the cookies on the plate anymore, then all it could just they could just close doors. So, what I've gathered from these first couple days is, so much of the talk for the last few months has been there's no way that this can get to December 1st and it still go to trial. These, the teams in NASCAR, they're going to settle. They're going to settle. And just still, even the first couple of days, it just feels like that the two sides are just in completely different worlds. The teams want X, Y, and Z, and NASCAR wants A, B, C. And it's just not matching up. And things are going to get pretty ugly. I know you talked about it earlier, Dom, that it was kind of expected that this would go 10, 12 days, but I could see this going a month plus probably, especially at the rate that they went the first couple days here.
And we're 2 days, 2 full days in now, and we've had one full testimony, and we're only I don't even know if, and there's no way to judge if they're halfway or where they're at on the second testimony, which ended up being NASCAR executive Scott Prime, who went after Denny Hamlin. But just a few numbers that came out today that Denny Hamlin mentioned. You're looking at Denny Hamlin said, let me see if I can get it here. So it came out that Hamlin makes about $14 million a year as a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing, which is a number we haven't, they don't release the drivers' contracts and what they're making. So that's a first in that stature. And he has put $10.74 million into 2311 racing. That was as of 2024. But he's on the hook for over $45 million based on loans that he's gotten for the organization. Hamlin and Michael Jordan, they both own Airspeed, and they pay $1 million a year in rent for the space, and it costs $35 million to build the entire building. Now, Hamlin was asking for $205 million in damages. Uh Basically they projected a $900,000 profit in 2020-21, which was the first year of 2311's existence. And Hamlin's basically said, we're just looking for what's fair in this point. And I don't know if that is fair or not. That might be a little more just in general of what I mean, 900%. That's a 900% increase on what it is. So that might be a little up there. But I mean, Denny Hamlin, he's at that point now where it feels like there's a true, genuine hate for NASCAR. And any number he can get on his side, it's going to be out. Now, I mean, you're only talking these guys so far. Richard Childress is most likely going to be a witness. 2311, they're going to call him up there.
Oh, this is going to be great.
Knowing after they called him a NASCAR called him a dumb redneck, and Richard Childress took offense to that. So, what's going to happen there? Because Richard Childress ain't one to hold back.
No, hold my watch.
That's the only thing they're holding is the watch. So, he's not going to be holding back. NASCAR executive Scott Prime, like I said, is doing his testimony now. He's at the stand. It ended on Tuesday with him there, and they're gonna resume from there. They're basically talking about charter negotiations and so far, and how they're trying to prevent a live golf situation, which also goes in hand with the release of the messages where they were getting really mad at drivers for doing the SRX races. As I guess they really thought a 6 week summer series, short track series, was going to threaten NASCAR.
Yeah, when I heard that and read that on Twitter, I was like, I thought it was clickbait at first. And then, oh no, they're actually being serious that a racing organization that has been around for 75 plus years was getting scared because of a 6 week summer shootout short track racing series that was nowhere close. It wasn't even on IROC levels. And back in the day, but if I remember correctly, did NASCAR own the IROC series? That's what I don't know. Anyways, either which way, it was like a 6 week Thursday night thunder, and NASCAR was getting scared about that.
And not only that, but Justin Marks, he tweeted just the other day. And remember, this is a guy that signed the charter agreement. How NASCAR 2 days after he proposed a similar series to that of SRX, NASCAR trademarked exactly what he tweeted 2 days after, and pretty much took any chance of there being, because Justin wanted to bring back some of the old generation NASCAR cars and have them race, on track at the same time. And that idea was entirely shut down 2 days later. And I think that was last year, the year before. It looked like 2022. I pulled it up just to fact check it. And it was trademarked 2 days after by NASCAR. Kind of a slap in the face there to one of your own owners that is investing in your company, to pretty much take away any right to do that too. So they got scared that Justin. Now, granted, Justin he brings probably one of the highest paychecks. He's up there with Rick Hendrick and Michael Jordan and Roger Penske, Gene Haas. He's got a big paycheck, so he's he was trying to do something, and he's made a legacy for Trackhouse, and that only exists, through NASCAR, right? Justin wouldn't have invested so much money into something he didn't care about, and for NASCAR to shut that down kind of shows the monopoly characteristics that they have, and where exactly they you know where they stand as a company.
Wait, so NASCAR was the bad guy in a situation? That, oh my
Yeah.
God, if only there was someone that was telling us that who has a hat on Dom's head right now that's
Right.
been telling us that for a long time. Whoa. I
Don't
hate
tell
Denny
Mamba.
Hamlin. I hate Denny Hamlin, and I've been very expressed about that, about how much I hate him on the track, in this podcast. But that guy, I mean, he's kept it straight up. He's kept it 100% with everybody that he's talked to on his podcast. Like, yeah, these guys are bad. It's gonna come out. You're gonna see it, and now we're seeing it, and it's like, wow, who would have guessed the monopoly is bad for the people? That's just there's a reason why we don't have monopolies. There's a reason why antitrust lawsuits exist. It's because this is bad. This is bad for whatever area of life you're in. And in this case, it's in NASCAR. It's just a bad thing to have for one person to control everything because then you get these egotistical maniacs that start calling people names and start saying things about people because they decide to run a series that's a fun series that has literally no bearing on NASCAR. It's not like they scheduled SRX races for the exact time that NASCAR races were on Sunday. They decided that they were going to have a series that existed outside of NASCAR. It's pretty much nothing like NASCAR except for the fact that they are cars going on ovals, and the bad guys took offense to it because the bad guys are always going to be the bad guys. They'll be the bad guys. They'll continue to be the bad guys no matter what.
It's also a little hypocritical too, because NASCAR, they want to partner up with IndyCar next year, right? And they want to have these events that are tied together, right? Another racing series. Oh my gosh. But yet here are proposed ideas to possibly get NASCAR drivers with other series, from other series in a different series, right? Competing together. Uh, you think that would be something to bring everybody together, but that's not what NASCAR wants. So why is it they're partnering up with IndyCar and having events? Oh, wait, it's a pretty good paycheck, isn't it?
If it's someone that has money that I can make money off of, then
Exactly.
yes, I'll do it. That's NASCAR. That's what NASCAR's thinking. But it's, oh, if this is someone that I could help, that the fans might like this, right? But no, because they could take of this entire pie, they could take this little sliver right here, and I could lose $5 on this. Hell no. I ain't giving up that $5 for the life of me. Like it's hypocritical. It is so hypocritical. And I'm not surprised. This is just what NASCAR is, and it's kind of what we've accepted from NASCAR for a long time without really thinking about it. And now this lawsuit's got us thinking about it. And it's like you think back to different instances where you're just thinking, wow, I guess that's just how NASCAR does it. That's just what NASCAR does. They can do it because it's NASCAR. Like just the idea of that, like if you really sit back and just think about times where it was just like that's just because NASCAR does what they want. The amount of times that that's happened is insane, really, to think about. And for us just now to really have our eyes open to like, wow, this is really messed up. Um, I think this lawsuit is doing a lot of good and what it's doing.
Yeah. If you look at everything right now, NASCAR, I feel like their approach now is to say that 2311 racing is making money, so why are they complaining? Well, the only reason that they are making money is because of the Michael Jordan factor. If it wasn't for Michael Jordan, they wouldn't be getting all these sponsors. They wouldn't be getting the sponsorship to help them make any money, any profit. Because if you look at, Front Row Motorsports, like we've already said multiple times, down $100 million since joining the sport, joining the Cup Series. And you've got to think other teams are struggling too. But when you get 6 hour window of being like, sign this or not, or just don't be chartered teams. The teams are gonna just sign because they don't have a case or someone as bold like a Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan knows he can go to court. He's gonna have the best lawyer to go after this, a lawyer that he's had before that is usually the one that comes out on top. And Bob Jenkins, I don't know if there was anything before that, but again, maybe it was that. What do I got to lose? If we lose out, then I just fold up like I probably would have had to have sometime down the road anyway with the current stance of the charters.
It's crazy to me that we are this deep into all of these different things that we're seeing. We haven't even gotten to the day where they told them you have like 6 hours or whatever to sign this charter. When we get to that part, that I don't I want to know, like I'm excited to know what's going to come out about that day specifically. Because how the hell do you hand these people here? You've got millions and millions and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars invested into this. You've got 6 hours, read over all of it and sign it, or you don't have a charter. What? Huh? That sounds bad optics wise. I can't wait until we get to the details. That's the part I'm excited about. This first part, like we're wading through all of this and all of it's important because due process and everything. But once we get to that, that's gonna be the juicy part. That's the part I'm waiting for, is like the time around that. What was everyone saying? What were the executives saying? Were they saying, haha, can we get this one over? Were they like evil villain laughing and rolling their hands or something? Like that's gonna be the really juicy part when we get to that part.
Yeah, so I think that's a good spot to leave this episode off on in terms of the trial. So that was the first 2 days of the trial. If any huge developments come out of the trial, we'll probably either post, emergency, reactions on TikTok. Maybe we'll come in here real quick, do a quick emergency pod or, YouTube video or something on it if something important happens throughout the end of this week. But for sure, we'll be back next week with an episode. And we definitely want to do a 2025 award show too before this year wraps up. So if you aren't already, make sure you're following the Foreign Field Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and listening on Spotify. Follow there so you're not missing out on episodes on Spotify. You'll get all the notifications when you open your Spotify app that there is a new episode out. For Sam, Wes, Steve, I'm Dom. We'll see you next time on the Forward Field Podcast.